So we're back from one east coast to another, one we're more familiar with. Not quite as crazy and loud and hot, but equally as good to look at. So yeah, we're back. Probably learned quite a lot on that sort of 10-11 day trip to the States. 3 different cities, probably about 10 press conferences, lots of interviews, loads of great access, loads of great content. Met loads of great people. I thought the squad, the manager, the players, the staff, the CEO, they were all brilliant in terms of the time that they were prepared to offer as we went over there. So got to hail the trip a success. Now it's just really about what have we kind of learned from the last sort of 10-11 days about Newcastle United. So let's break it down into five sort of points. Yeah, I think the big talking point's got to be Elliot Anderson. It's the obvious talking point as well, but it's certainly for me the player that has done himself the most favours going into this trip, and he's probably going to give Eddie Howe a welcome selection headache, because it means now that, you know, he's probably going to have to include him against Aston Villa. If he can get through the next 2 games unscathed, then he's definitely going to be involved. In my opinion, I don't see how he can be left out. He was brilliant before they even went to America against Gateshead and Rangers, and then the 2 games he played over there were just sensational. The game against Aston Villa, where he was the main man, scoring one and making one, sparking the comeback, taking on the responsibility to help them get a 3-3 draw. You know, Alan St-Maximin has just left the club, and Newcastle need a go-to person, and in America Elliot Anderson was that go-to person. So yeah, he's done himself probably the most favours. The New Jersey game, scoring 2 goals in the last 2 minutes, brilliant stuff. Again, Newcastle needed a hero and he stepped forward, so he's been the main man in the last few days, and he's going to have to take that forward in the Cellar Cup, do well this weekend. But I cannot see how he can not be on the starting lineup for that game against Aston Villa. The other big thing I definitely took a lot of notice of when I was over there is the stadiums. I just think it's just mind-blowing how good it was, especially Atlanta. I think there's a lot we can learn from it. Definitely the fan engagement side of things. I know Newcastle are working on that as much as they can, and I think for me over there's a great example. I mean, some of the venues I went to, you kind of had fan support desks. If you've got any issues, you can go over on a match day and have a chat with someone. I just thought it was just so open and helpful, and the facilities were just second to none at all 3 grounds. I mean, fair enough, Philadelphia and Atlanta are NFL venues, but even I think the Red Bull Arena, it's quite a new one in comparison. It's purpose built for New York Red Bulls, but I just think it's a really good contained facility with everything that's needed. And if you ever get the chance to go over to New York, then definitely it's one to visit, because you can just jump on a train from Manhattan and you can be there within half an hour. So it's definitely one for your list if you can do it. But I just thought overall the stadiums were absolutely brilliant. The third talking point that I would bring up would be the left back battle. So much of the summer's been spoken about as Newcastle United trying to sign a new fullback, new left back, but I think that's almost been taken a little bit personal by the 2 players that Newcastle have got at left back, Dan Burn and Matt Targett. And if you want my personal opinion, then I think Matt Targett is probably just ahead in the battle for that position. I know Dan Burn was in there last season, and deservedly so, and I'm a big fan of everything that he brings to the team. The fans love him as well, but I just think that Matt Targett got through a lot of work over there in America in the games that he played. He played the full 90 against Brighton, and I think that was, in that intense heat, that won't have done him any harm at all. So he's obviously the more natural left back. He played wing back as well against Villa. Okay, there was a few problems in that game defensively, but I think he's in a good position. But I think it is neck and neck really. When I say he's ahead, that's probably slightly ahead, and that can change in the games over the weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see what Eddie Howe's final team selection will be and who features where between Target and Burn. But I think that's a position that it'd be great if you've got top quality in every position, but I think at the minute that's probably the position that they don't need to worry about. And I think Matt Target is getting back to the player that we've seen in his first season, so good positive signs for Matt Target over there. I think the gamesmanship, if you want to call it that, or the dark arts, it's something Newcastle were associated with last season, and we've seen a little bit of that again over in America. The Nick Pope incident where he puts the ball out of play, and then as he's hurtling to get back to his goal, he just calmly clips another ball into play. I thought it was genius actually. So I think we'll be seeing a lot of that again. Let's remember, it was at the expense of a yellow card. We're seeing a clamp down now on time wasting rules, certain amount of people allowed in the technical area. So I think it's going to be very difficult next season to see a carbon copy of what we did in the previous campaign, where Newcastle were almost renowned for it. They were given that sort of tough side. We haven't seen that. We've never seen it under Steve Bruce. It was always Newcastle seemed to be the ones that were, you know, getting these things done to them. But, you know, Newcastle reinvented themselves really, and I think they'll have to do something similar next year. But again, working around them rules looks very strict. Some of the things we're seeing, especially the technical area stuff, I think that's pretty extreme. So let's hope they can find a way around it. But they certainly showed they could in America with a lot of different things. The Pope incident being the pick of them. I think Eddie Howe will be happy to get the players back. This is the other point I just want to make, that I think it was difficult for them in America because they were kind of on a schedule that was put together by the Premier League. And look, Newcastle would have got money for playing in that tournament, so you kind of have it always. But I think Eddie Howe now will feel like he's got full control. He even used the word lack of control in his press conference on Friday night. So I think he'll be glad to get them back, get them training here in the climate that we are used to. Everyone's cooled down, everyone will have a clear head going into the preparations for that Cellar Cup. And Eddie Howe will be pleased. He's got less media demands. I think 6 press conferences in just over a week is a big demand for any manager. It was the same for all the managers involved. It was a pre-match and post-match, and there was 3 games in the space of sort of 5 or 6 days, so it was very intense. I do believe he is going to meet the media again at some point before the Cellar Cup, so that'll be interesting to see what he's got to say. But yeah, Eddie Howe will just feel a lot better now that he's got things back into a manageable order.